be available for the next person. But driving should stop. Am I right? Also, if you have an eight of having going to drive, why not? Yes, it's the Shabbos is the Hutro or Tchuya. So Tchuya, Shabbos is Tchuya, not Hutro. If it's Tchuya, this is whatever you could avoid Chilul Shabbos. We started already, it's on.
Yes,
okay. We'll start the Mishnah. Mishnah Fidal from the beis. Mishama say, "Ein misalkin esat trisin." One should not take off the trisin. B'yom tif and yom tif b'sil matin to allow a person to take off trisin. The Gemara will explain what trisin means. And b'sil also says af lahachziroi. Putting the trisin back is also allowed. So the shaila is what is trisin? My trisin or mar'ulu who said trisin chanuyos. These are the boards or the shutters that you close up. The chanuyos, the portable stores that you sell on Yom Tif. When you sell on Yom Tif, you can't take money, of course not. You can't even mention a price, but you give the person what it is, and he'll pay you after Yom Tif. That's allowed on Yom Tif. That's Simchas Yom Tif. And these boards, Bisham, I say, if the boards are off before Yom Tif, go ahead. Sell whatever you have to on Yom Tif. But if it was closed before Yom Tif, you cannot open it on Yom Tif. So he'll say, no, you could open it in order for Simchas Yom Tif to sell the food on Yom Tif. And Nishnor Dem Zok Bis Hillel, even to put them back to prevent Geneva, you're also allowed to do. Why? The Gemara will explain, it's not Simchas Yom Tif anymore. You're not allowed to do any malacha because you want to save your nechasim, to save money on Shabbos or Yom
the
Tif.
boss to lose everything because of your Simchas Yom Tif. You got to leave it open. I won't open.
Oh, that's what we're saying. That's what we're saying. If we're going to tell me, because Misham knows B'chai can open Lechatchila. Balzen, why now? Let's already mention it now. There is a unit of binyan and stira b'kelim. There's a machlekes, there's binyan and stira b'kelim. The malacha of binyan is only something b'chubel karka. Unless you hold, even kelim, there is binyan v'stira. Now, there are malachas that we can't do on kelim as well. The malacha of makkah b'patish. But that is only the last blow, the last makkah on the kelim when you finish when you're creating the kelim. That's for sure. It's not part of binyan. It's a separate malacha makkah b'patish. What's about adding something to a binyan is called Isra binyan. It's only if it's connected to the ground. So if you have a store, you have a house, and you're adding a brick to your house, that's called binyan. So there also, if these taking off the shutters or putting it on, if it will be stuck to the ground, this whole booth, then there'll for sure be a shaila of binyan v'stira b'kelim. Now, how do we open up our doors and how do you open the shutters? But the kuda is the shaila is Bishami don't hold of binyan v'stira b'kelim. B'sila holds Bishami holds it's the raisa. B'sila holds it's not also the raisa.
These are not connected to anything.
Oh, the Gemara is going to have three options of how these things are connected. If there's no hinges at all, you're simply taking off the board. There'll be a day in the Gemara. If Bishami allows you to take it off, not to put it back. Machlokas not putting it back. Our Mishnah says Bishami does not allow it. But you'll be in the Gemara, but I'll say it now. The Gemara says there's three options of how these things work. Either you're taking it off without any hinges. In that case, we're more makel, because what are you doing already? You're not being boin anything. Another madrega, a little higher, is going to be when there's only hinges on the middle of the board. So let's say here's the board that you're closing it up with. So you take off the board, but you have here like something protruding, sticking out, and you put that inside a hole that's in the booth, and then you take it out. You're not swinging it back and forth like a door. You're actually taking it out. But there's hinges in the middle. And then the worst is hinge on the side. If there's two hinges on the side, meaning two little pegs sticking out, and you put it inside, you're not using it as a swing, going back and forth, you're taking it off. But even that, Misham says, because it looks like, because your mom is going to go ahead and make it and make a mamish binyan the keli itself. So even taking off, so we're going to have in the Gemara three. Well, let's not jump ahead. We're going to have three options of how these things work, which is mut, which is awesome. But our Mishnah says, Bishamai says, b'chlal it's also to even take it off. Misalkin, Misilo says it's mutter even lahachsim. Okay, Dr. Gemara weiter. V'amar Ula says shloisha dvarim, three things. Hitiru soifon mishum tchilason. Chazal was matir to do it at the end. In order, why would you matir? Only because of something that's going to take place in the beginning. Ve'elahin, and these are those three things. Oilef and hadurson. After one shechs behema and yom tif, he's allowed to take the hide, even though the hide is muktzah and has no use leichel nefesh. You could take it and put it in front of people who trample on it in the shus rabim. If you won't allow him to do it, he won't shech because he knows he'll lose out on the hide, and therefore it's your matter soifon because of mishum tchilason. That's number one. We have the last mishnah, and this mishnah utrisi chanuyos Like we had in our case, the Trisa the Chazor. The Shabbos Hillel says you could put it back. Why should I put it back? At that point, no one needs any food anyway. You put it back just to protect your wares, your food from Gneva. Because you're matir, safe because of Chilasa. The third thing, the Chazaras Retiyah b'Mikdosh. The Tiyah is a bandage, and a kohen is not allowed to do the avoid with a bandage on his hand because it's a chetzitza, side between his hand and the sakin, or that he's doing the aveda with, or even we're taking the mizrach of dam, whatever aveda is doing, you can't be chetzitza between his hand and what he's doing. Even the clothes, even the clothes that he has, you can't have a chatzitza between the big dekona and the skin itself. The most easiest thing is put your hand that's doing the aveda of holding on to the mizrach that has blood in it. You can't be chatzitza. He has to take off his band-aid and take the case of dam and do zrika on his bear, for example. If you're not going to allow him later on to put it back on his hand, he won't do the aved l'chatchila, or maybe he'll do it with the chatzitza. I don't know. Rashi says over here, we'll see in a moment. We'll see soon what Rashi says. It's not clear. Either we're worried to do chashom with the chatzitza mamash, he'll do post the aved psula, or he won't do a mitzvah doing the aved. It's also a problem. What would be the problem of being chazoras and putting back a bandage on your hand? So of course, to smear something that's not allowed, that's mamish memachik. You can't smear something, but it's a gzeira otu memachik. You might come ahead and you're going to smear or smooth out the bandage itself, might be smoothing, and therefore it's a shavus. But we allowed a kohen to put back his bandage without putting medicine inside, just putting it back, even though it's a shavus. If you don't allow him to put it back, his chatchila won't go ahead either and won't do the avoid, or maybe even he'll do it as a chatzitza. Okay, let's go back. These are the three inyanim that Ula says that God goes in, and he says the end he tiru seifon because of the tchilosam. Now we have one more thing added by another time, by another amida. Rechova Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rechova is the name of an Amida. Rechova. In the name of Rav, it says here Rabbi Yehuda. We'll have a long Rashi if you want to learn it soon. It says Rabbi Yehuda. Really, it's Rabbi Yehuda. Rechova was an Amida. It was a Pumpadisi. He didn't see Rabbi Yehuda Hanossi. It says Rabbi Yehuda. There's a Rashi and Tesis about this. We'll find time to learn the Rashi and Tesis. But Rechova says the name of Rabbi Yehuda. Af haPesei Chavitei uMaschel Bisosei Al Gav Haregel. Also, someone who opens up his barrel of wine to sell. And also he started selling his bread and his dough on the regel because of regel. Also here we have this concept. What is this bekitzer? Bekitzer, you know, an amaretz, a chover is careful, who's careful to eat all his food, al taris hakedesh, al taris truma. So you make sure so all amaratzim have a chazaka that they told me. Mashenk the shas haregel on Yom Tif. Mitzat Poshit Achtus Yisrael, or people should feel not embarrassed Amaratzim that when they're coming up to Be'el Rebbe, let's say Shalayim, all the negia of the Amaratzim are tohir on Yom Tif. That's the din. So what happens if an Amar is touched bread on Yom Tif? And a chover on Yom Tif could eat the bread. He could touch it, it doesn't give any tumor. What happens if that bread stayed till after Yom Tif? Could you go ahead and say it's still the tumor left it or the tumor stays? Dos evensach, says Rabbi. So Rabbi Yehuda, the Chacham say the tumor comes back. It comes back. So what he did touch before on Yom Tif, after he took this tumor, so you can't use it again. Well, he didn't touch, of course, not tumor. Rabbi Yehuda says, he says, if you started selling your loaf of bread, and when you're selling it, people are touching it in order to feel it. If it's soft, they want to buy it. So now I'm going to touch the bread, and he decided not to buy, but he was touching the bread and the yayin. So and he opened it before that negia later on will be tahir because of the same rule. If you're not going to allow a chaver to sell, if you're going to say the tumor goes till after Yom Tif, you won't go up to the marrow. But if it wasn't open before Yom Tif, if it was a barrel of wine that I didn't open before Yom Tif, but the Amoris did touch it on Yom Tif, that taka even if it is made, it's going to have a tumor after because you didn't start to sell. There's no gzeira. Only because we're worried you're not going to start to open up your barrel and Yom Tif, that's gzeira. There's a fourth thing that the Chava says that we're matir. It's safe on mishum tchilasa. Let's read it inside. A person opened up his barrel of wine, or he started selling his dough or bread. I'll leave the Rabbi Yehuda, like we said. Rabbi Yehuda says the tumor does not go till after the regel, and actually it's going to stay toy as it was. It's not going to return after the regel. It's going to stay toy as it was on the regel itself. The Omer was able to say Yigmeir You should finish up and sell it, and it remains toy. Yeah. Now we're going to discuss these three inyanim. We said four things now. Yeah. The shaila is, what is Ula telling us? Is there any other pshat in these four mishnas? We're telling us a chidush l'chayda, Ula and Rechava. You should know there are four things that Chachamim said it's allowed because of what happened before.
Obviously,
Is there any other way you can learn pshat in our mishnas? If there's no other way you can learn pshat from mishnas, what's Ula saying, B'chlal? It must be there's another way you can learn pshat in Beis Hillel, and another way you can learn in Rabbi Yehuda, and you could learn that the reason why they say it's is not because of your matter seifon b'shum tchilason, and comes of Kiddush of Ula. You should know the reason why these Mishnayos say it's mutter is because of, really it would be asur, but it's mutter because of tchilason. So now they're going to go through all those four Mishnayos and to tell us what's the Kiddush of Ula. Isn't it pashut? You learn the Mishnah. Isn't that the only way you can understand these Mishnayos? Isn't that the reason why Chazal said it's mutter is because you are matal pnei tchilason? Or there must be another way that one might have thought that that's the pshat in the Mishnah. So, for example, the oil fnei adurson, we had already this concept before. It's possible to say, not because it's also to, Bam says, mutter to put down the lechatchila. Why? You use the oil to sit on. We had it in the last year. So there's no isur at all. So what, you only say your matir soifon mishum tchilason if really there would be some epis vasa from isur, but nevertheless we won't care and we'll do it because of tchilason. But you might think there's no isur whatsoever because being that this piece of hide is not muktzah. Why? Because you could use it to sit on, so maybe it has the muktzah at all. So the chet go put it down. What's it after minute? Even a behemoth that was geschachten before Yom Tif, maybe, and the hide was left. You shecht the behemoth 10 minutes before Yom Tif. You have the hide. Maybe that you could also put down the fnei adurson. Comes Ula and says no. Mr. holds also there's a problem with touching the say it's muktzeh. No,
what's the problem then? I mean, to walk on it is a problem.
No, ibud eris. It's a malach of ma'abed. No,
Just by walking on it.
No, so ibud eris is mamish. No, if you talk to go be ma'abed the oil, even the malach dies, then you get malchus. By putting it down in front of people are going to think that you're allowed to ma'abed eris. No one said you should do. That's ma'abed. So if the Beis Hillel holds that lechatchila is no problem because there is a usage for Yom Tif, which is to lay down as a carpet to sit on. In that case, b'chlal there's no shemetz, no b'chlal isur. Then even if you have the hide left over from something you shechted before Yom Tif, you should also be allowed to put it in adurson. He says, oh no. Then Beis Hillel also holds a problem holding the oil, tampering with the oil, holding it to Yom Tif, because people are going to think you're doing ibadah. And therefore, if Taki shechted your animal before Yom Tif and you had the hide on Yom Tif, you're not allowed to touch it and put it in adurson. He only allowed you to put it in adurson if you shechted it on Yom Tif. And because if not, if you don't allow, there's no other way. What else could you do with it? You could not have done it taking it before Yom Tif. So Ula is telling us the reason of this hill is because of this reason. Say wait chilasim. And the same thing goes with our mission with the trisim. You might think the trisim the Gemara will discuss soon is not mitzad's problem because with hill holds the there's no binyan and stira b'kelim. And in that case, all the nafkamina will be not just chaniyas outside in your own house also. If you have a box in your house and the same scenario and the same and you want to put and take off trisim on the box in your own house, which you don't. If Beis Hillel holds the cloud, there's no problem with being considered a kalim. That should also be allowed. He says, "Oh no, Beis Hillel holds also the problem with being considered a kalim. Not the rice of the rabbanon. He only allowed it in the chanus outside when he's selling food. And why did he allow also to be chayzer? Because say from a shut chilasa. So there's another way of understanding Beis Hillel in these two mishnayos. Kumt Ula and Azak names the Seif and Chilasim. The third mission as well, about the bandage as well. You might think the Chlal, any bandage is in from Shvus. And we know what's the rule about the Beis Hamikdash, Ein Shvus B'Mikdash. Now this rule, we should not make a mistake. The rule of Ein Shvus is not across the board. It's not pshat. There's many Shvus you don't do in the Mikdash. So there are some shvus you're allowed to do in the mikdash.
Only for the sake of avoiding you're allowed to
so you might think that this bandage, if you just read the Mishnah that it says the kohen is allowed to return the bandage on his hand, you might think two ways. Either b'chlal, this is from that shvus that there's ein b'mikdash, and then a kohen could even do it if he's not doing the aveda b'chlal. If he's a kohen in the beis hamikdash and he took off his bandage for whatever reason, he could put it back on if you say ein shvus b'mikdash. Or like Ula is coming to be machadish to us, no. That means returning a bandage on Yom Tov and the Beis Hamikdash is asur. It's one of those shvuyas that are not allowed to be done in the Beis Hamikdash. But here, let's say the Chaveda, and because this word of Seifan for Tchilasan you're allowed to. So the three ways of understanding this union. And also when it comes to the Tum V'Tara, we'll see soon also. That's what we're going to do till the next mission. Let's go do it inside. The line starts with Yigmeir. The second word, the line is Oir. Yeah? Yeah, Yigmeir, the first word, the line Oir, Lefnei Hadurson, Tanina. What's Ula telling us? The reason for this is because we're matter safe with Chalasan. It says very clear in the Mishnah, isn't it? That's the only way to interpret the Mishnah? No. I might learn Pshat in the Mishnah, that's not because of Ula's reason. Why are you allowed to do it? Like we said, not because your matter is something that chetchila really is awesome. No, it has no chetchila issue to it because you're allowed to, because you can use it for a carpet, so therefore it's allowed in chetchila. And what would be enough? Even if you shakti behem out of yomtiv, if there is no problem whatsoever with this as muktzah, you could do it even if you shakti behem misham. Comes Ula and Kamash Malon, comes Ula and says no, there is epis vas and isur. B'til would not allow it if you shakti out of yomtiv. Tiru seif mishum tchilason. Only because of this reason, that's why we allowed you. The Yom Tif in, because you wanted to shech the animals on Yom Tif, therefore, for Yom Tif, you ought to do this. Yom Tif, loy. That's it. Now, today's say Chanuyas Nami Tanin Uchirau Mishnah, where it says, what, how else can live Pshat Mishnah if not for the way Ula's understanding it? No, Mao, the Tema Mitzvah Mishum, the Ein Binyin, Bekalim, Vein Stira Bekalim. There is no binyan b'chlal and stira b'kelim and no even gzered rabbanon to build a keli on Yom Tif and Shabbos. You might think that's the hill shita. I won't enough kimina. I feel about batim nami. The batim nami, even in your own house, you could do it in hiding for no reason of tzedek eichel nefesh of selling food to someone. That's why, because b'chlal there's no malacha. Kamash Malon, Zula says no. Even this explains what would be the Gzeir Rabbanon, but there is a Gzeir Rabbanon, even according to Bisil, even though he holds there is no Binyan Bisil Mekalim, because you might go and tighten it, and if you tighten it, Mamish has a screw, it's going to be a Mamish even from Makib Patish. But in any case, there is a Gzeir. Why did he allow you to open it and close it? That means you need a special heter. When you need a heter, you need a heter. What does an isur? So there is epis was an isur. Comes Ul and says there's only a heter here because it's with chalasa. The chanui is in the batim loy, but if it's only because Chimki is selling food, therefore you're allowed to do it on Yom Tov. Now chazaras ritia b'mikdosh nami l'chitini v'lintin amnisha clearly machzirin ritia b'mikdosh avali b'medina. It says you're allowed to do it, but not doing the Medina. So Malatim also, I would say, time mishum de ishvuz b'mikdosh. I might think that the reason why you're allowed to return the bandage on, put it back onto your hand in the beis hamikdash only is because this is from those shavus that as ein b'mikdash b'chlal b'sil holds, Rabbi Yehuda holds. And what would you have to feel coin the lav bar avodah? Even the coin who's not doing the avodah is also allowed to do it because when you're in the premise of the beis hamikdash, there's no shvus at all. And maybe this chazaras is part of that category of shvus that is also over mikdash. Kamash Mula, no, that bam is putting back a bandit if you're not doing the avodah is not allowed because it is part of those shvus that is also the mikdash. Why does we allow it? Kamash, why do we allow it here? Itiru seif mesund chilason. Why the bar avodah in la bar avodah loy? Right? And the dafkin will be if a person is not doing the avodah. Just the Rashi we mentioned before, because I wasn't sure what Rashi means. Let's check into Rashi a second. Who does to find it? Mikdash. Yeah, you see the Rashi is about Mikdash here. A little higher up. The line that Rashi starts Mishum Memachik. Yeah, Mishum Machik. You see, you have a Mikdash. The line starts Mishum Memachik. Yeah, so a Mikdash. L'kein Shaloko. He has a wound in his hand. He has to do the aveda and take off. Why should he take the ritiya? So he says, why? If you won't allow him to put it back, look at the next words. Won't take it off. Won't take it off.
And he'll do.
And what?
With a chetzitza.
He won't take it off and he won't do the Aveda, maybe. I don't know. That's a pshat.
Oh, they haven't done the Aveda.
What?
Or will be Aveda.
So he won't take it off because he can't put it back on. What would he do? Either he'll be passing the Aveda or he won't do the Aveda.
Other people will do Aveda. He doesn't have to do. he doesn't
No,
know.
it's a mitzvah. It's his mishmar. I don't know.
It's his mission.
So you say pshat. Okay, I have to know.
I think
We have to
that
look up
means
this.
that he's going to do it
Come on.
without-
Yeah.
with it.
Right. Okay.
And that's the problem.
Mamash, you possibly have a chitzitz, you can do it. Okay, let's go back to the Gemara. Let's go back to the Gemara here. What's about the fourth thing?
Maseches Chavita.
Beseches chavite. The line starts with the baravoida. Yeah. Beseches is chavite nami. The reason why taste is mentioned, I think, the reason why. Oh, maybe the Gemara will say it later. The reason why Ula didn't say 4 because this is where the machlekes. It's a machlekes of Yehuda and Abanon, and Ula's only mentioned the 3. But there's no machlekes. That's also it's also Ula's bringing in Shas cases where you're matir seifon because of Chilason. Why didn't he include this? Why do you have to have a chova on Rabbi Yehuda to say it? Because it's already told machlekes. It's only Rabbi Yehuda, and Ula's list was only those that are lekulam. Okay, but. Tanina, we learned someone opens up his barrel and he starts selling his bread. Al gav haregel. Why is he doing it? Because of a regel, even to the amaratzim. It says yigmeir. Finished meaning after the regel also it's going to stay toy. No, le yigmeir. Don't finish. It brings back its tumah. Isn't that the only way you can interpret Rabbi Yehuda? Why does he say you can do it? Because Seif Mechit Chalas. He says there's another way you can interpret Rabbi Yehuda. Malti, you might think. Tumas amor is beregel ketare shavi rabbanon. V'afgad lehischil nami. You might think that the chachomim made them tohir mamish. So even if when they touch on Yom Tov, you can't say after Yom Tov it's going to become tummy. You might erroneously think that way. It's not the case without Ula, but you might without Ula. That's a pshat. And what did nafkimine? Even if it did not open up his barrel, if the amor happened to touch wine that's in a barrel. You may, if it's mamash shavura bana ketar and gansen, it doesn't have a tumah later. It says Ula no. The only reason is because when a person we want to encourage chavedim to open up their barrels and to sell it. Only for that reason. With closed barrels, we're talking going to be geyser that tumah comes back. So I forgot the loy hischil nami. So you might think even if you didn't start with your bread or didn't start with the chavis, is also going to remain tahir. Kamash Malon says Ula no. The only reason why we say the Tahara continues on after Yom Tiv, only because we're worried that if you don't, he won't go ahead and open his barrel to sell it. And therefore, his chil, if you open up his barrel, we'll say, okay, you're going to have the exemption and your food will stay tahir. In his chil, he didn't and happened to become touched by Amaretz, it will remain, the tomb will return to it. Oh, the Gemara itself says, in fact, the Gemara of my time, why doesn't Hula mention this last one? He only mentioned the 3. The plukta loikamari and for the Gemara. Hula ret nor the Mishnahs that there's no machlekes. I mean, I think Rashi says, here, no, for Gemara hanachrami plukta l'cheira ninu. You have our Mishnah also. Bisham is still arguing. For the Gemara, Bisham b'makam is still ain't Mishnah. So Bisham, you can't say Bisham is called up about plukta from this Hillel. But many times Shas you have that say to me. Many times you have he doesn't mention this Mishnah. Why did he mention that? Put in the list. Same answer. He won't speak about he brings Mishnah in that l'kulalme. L'cheira Bisham is Hillel is not l'kulalme. No. Bisham even makim in his Hillel ain't Mishnah. So it's considered mamish like a stam Mishnah without a machlekes. Yeah, now we're going to a little bit weiter. Masnissen delay kihaitana. Our Mishnah says that is Hillel holds you could say take off the tristan, say return the tristan. And Bishami says you can't do both of them. It's not like this upcoming brisa. Now we're going to have here them is 2 brises. These 2 brises are similarly going to be a stira one to another, and the Gemara is going to explain these brises. But either one of these brises are not according to our Mishnah, because our Mishnah clearly says that Bishami asers to take off the Tristan Yom Tiv. And according to both of these brises, the Sham is going to say it's allowed to take off the Tristan Yom Tiv. So let's start. So the Gemara Masnis in the Lake Haitanya. The our Mishnah is not in this time. The Tanya will enter the Brisa. Amr Abshim ben Elazar. Maidim Beisham, Maibis Hillel. They're both made Shem Misalkin as a Tristan Yom Tiv, that you are allowed to take off Tristan Yom Tiv. They're only arguing. You can't put it back. Should be Shami say you should not return it because there's no reason to return it. There's no simple something involved in returning the Tirisim. He'll say Af Machazirin, you also have to put it back. As Ul explained, because we want to end safe and this is a clarification. Here will be a still this right to next right. When do we say this? that there's a machlekes b'sheyesh lehen tzir. When does Bishamai say you're not allowed to return the tirisin? When there's a tzir, when there's a hinge, when there's a hinge in this board. Avol ein lehem tzir. It's mamish a board without any tzirim. So just taking and closing the board. Divid hakel mutin. If Mishami agrees, you're allowed to put it back. Because that's not called binyan at all by putting a piece of board in an empty space. In fact, this last part, Tanya, don't we have another beisa that the clarification that the Bamedra Amudim is actually different than this beisa? Did with another beisa, Bamedra Amudim. When do Beishama and Hillel argue is when there's no tzir. That means Beishama is more machman. Even without a tzir, it's not allowed to. And actually, Avo Yeshla and tzir, but there is a tzir. Divid hakel also. Even Miss Hillel holds it's also. So how could these last two brises be understood? Says the Gemara, like we explained at the beginning of the shir, there's three types of board. One board without a tzir whatsoever. That's one extreme. It's allowed. The other extreme is when the tzirim are on the sides, where it's mamish b'doimit to building hinges to a door and affixing the hinges fixing the door to the hinges that can be connected. Even though you're not doing it because you're taking the whole thing out. But like the taste explains, it looks like it's you might come ahead and be mahadik and tighten it and fasten it. And that's mamish going to be an isur. And then the tzira in the middle, where there's no gzeir, you're going to fasten it because you're going to fasten it. Then you can't take off the board. If it's on the side, the hinges, the gzeir is. If you're going to fasten the hinges to this backs, you could really use it. You open it this way. So therefore, we're geyser, even though you're not putting it, you're not fastening the hinges to the backs, to the tail, to the chanus. You're taking the whole thing off. But the gzeir text says, like Bishop Bezila, you might go ahead and actually fix it to make building the door onto your doorpost. However, if the hinges are in the middle, there's no gzeir. You can't do. You have to take it out in order to sell your wear. So there's no gzeir. You might go ahead and be Yitka, that last taste is Shema Yitka. It's the last one taste in the Amud. Shema Yitka, you go ahead and affix mamish to the door. Okay, well, let's look at it inside. And for the Amar Abayim, when there's tzir min hatzad, there's hinges on the side. Kul divrei hakel tak is also. As explained, ein len tzir kol iker, when there's no tzir whatsoever, divrei hakel muter. Keep when did they argue? You have a tzir in the middle. Mar savar gazinon b'shamai whole gazinon tzir be'emtza. The tzir natzat. We're going to be going to tzir be'emtza. The tzir natzat. Or mar savar the other. And Bishil will say le gazin. You're not geyser. So, anyways, we're going to continue the next mission. But should we go through the Rashis here now, or should we go a little bit weiter? I said about Pella the Rashis. If you
Keep going.
Go right, okay. But just be kids here, what it says over here, because there's Vishayim that discuss a bit. When Yeshua mentions also, let's not forget, Bishami hold yesh binyan ustiri b'kelim. I mean, I tell you that. Bishil holds ein binyan. So the whole binyan, even the tzir min hatzad, according to Bishilel, is only osur midrabanon. A gzeir, you might go ahead and be a yitka. You're going to go and fasten it. So perhaps the reason why le gazinon the tzirim in the middle because ein gazinon gzeira. The whole gzeira of the tzirim natzad is on your gzeira. You might come and do something else, fix it. So therefore this would be gzeira. Other acharim say it's not totally in that because the tzirim natzad is a very strong gzeira. It's not like a gzeira, it's just like the rabbanan. It's a very very strong chance a person might go ahead and fix it in, and therefore the reason why b'sham is le gazinon, as Ula says, because of safe and also tchilas. Therefore, you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to do it because you might go ahead and prevent yourself from doing the tchilah. The Rashi, there's another Rashi about the name Rabbi Yehuda. Rashi Tesis mentions the whole Rashi basically. So Rav Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda also was at Yisrael. Yeah, so instead of doing Rashi and Tesis, this Tesis Amar Rechava Amar Yehuda. It quotes the entire Rashi. So you could, and at the end he asks, let's do that Tesis. Amar Rechava Amar Yehuda. Yeah. So Pirush Rashi says, what's the lashon Rabbi Yehuda? So he says, Yesh Mefarshim the Lachi Kamar Hai Lishna. Why do we say Rabbi Yehuda? Mishum Shahai Mesupak Rechava had a suffix im Shama Shmua Zeis mi Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi Oi me Rav Yehuda. And therefore, maybe it was from Rabbi, and it would be disrespectful to Rabbi Yehuda if he heard from him and didn't say Rabbi. So therefore, he mentioned Rabbi. So we see that Rechava is very, very medayik, and also who he heard the Shmua from, the beis is from. We'll see soon. There's two levels of diuk. One level is some amirim that are very, very meduik in how they give over the memory, the brises. But lav dafka, there's so meduik in who it's in the name of. There's some amirim that the mamish medayik also and they're going to tell you I have a doubt too. So from here, kumteis, if you can hold according to this pirush, that the Rechav is part of those Amiroim, that he's medayik, not just in how he goes over a Braisa, he's also medayik and careful in who he heard the Shmua from. Rashi doesn't like that. Rashi doesn't agree with this pirush. So the Rashi says, that he had a suffix by himself. If you heard from Yehuda Nasi, he didn't even meet her. Says Rashi, the Rechav we don't find, maybe he was in the same generation of Yehuda Nasi, but Rashi assumes because in the whole Shas we don't find he was ever able to Yisrael, so we can't assume he ever saw Yehuda Nasi. Why would he even be a suffix? It's number one, why Rashi says that he doesn't like the first pirush, that Rechav had a suffix, who he heard it from. For Oid, another interesting reason why Rashi says why he doesn't accept this, because Rashi will give his own reason why Taki says Rabbi Yehuda. But let's first see what Rashi's Shailel, the pirush that he says Rabbi because of the suffix. The first we mentioned, the second Oid, because Metzina b'Psachim, the Dayik v'Gomer Shmaitzim v'Puma Rabbi Kirchava. And the Psachim, the Gemara gives an example of an Amayra who's mamish medayik in all the words of his Rebbe and how he gives it over. So he says it. He gives an example of Rechava. He gives it over. And the Gemara did not add there that not just his medayik in the Shmaitze, he's also medayik in the Baal HaMemre. And if Rechava would have been part of that group of Amiroim that are also medayik in the Baal HaMemre, the Gemara would have mentioned it. Part of his Shvach. They would have said, like Rechava, who's medayik and giving over the Shmaitze of his darf to sein, uneichet, gitechet iber, also the Baal HaMemre also. And the Gemara didn't say that. Is that right? That Rechava is not from that category. That's also why you can't say the suffix will be, he'll say that because of the suffix. They're speaking about even a Lashon of the Rav. He'll speak about the Stov. In the Beis was Stov, the Gabi Stov. And the Mishnah is another Lashon. I think Pesach mentioned this. The end of Pesach is going to mention what it was. Yeah, so Istunis, the Lashon of the Mishnah is Istunis. Yeah, Istunis, Astunis. It's the platforms that are in the Beis Hamikdash. But he said Stov al Gabi Stov. Lefinim is Tov. So he said, why do you say different than Mishnah? He heard from his Rebbe. Someone his Rebbe said Mazal Loshin. He said it over in this Loshin also. Interessante, you have also another Mishnah. The Rebbe reads it down sometimes, and you have also from the Bar Tanura. I think it's a Masechta Mikvois. That you have Shmai and Aftah. You have Hillel says Hillel Hazokin says that Mole hin Mayim Shuuvin Peislin es Hamikve. A full hin of Mayim Shuuvin could pass the mikveh. The mikveh didn't have yet its full. Arbaim saw yet. Pass the mikveh. Fragt him. Forsha Mishnayis. Mole. What's the lashon mole hin? Hin. Hin saw. There's no mole saw. Mole. There's no. What's the lashon mole? What's up mole hin? The lashon mole. Very interesting. So it's like this. Hillel, his Rebbe was a Shmai Naftali, and they were both Geirim from Geirit Tzedek from Roim or from where were they from? They were they're from Greece, from Yavan, I think from Yavan maybe. Yeah, they were Geirim, and in their language, I think in Greek, there's no H. There's no H. I think it's some people Shleim also they can't say the hey. They say the alef and start the hey. What? Yeah. So Pasha, so they couldn't say. So Shemaivta couldn't say the hey. So in order people should not misunderstand them that they're saying ein mein shuv in peislas hamikveh. So they would add the word mole in mein shuv peislas hamikveh. Hillel spoke Hebrew very well. His pronunciation was like a yid. He knew how to speak. So he could say hin very proud. But because his Rebbe said the lashon mole, so Hillel also said mole. No, it's in the Pirush Mishnah. I've mentioned this sometimes about the dik lashon Rav. So it's it's a Mishnah. So my Torah brings it down. Others bring it down. I think the Rambam also brings it down, but a little bit different than I think. But I want to look up a shaita. I forget what it was. But look into the dik, you can see it there. So wie wichtig sie ist, am geht über Indien nicht nur the Teichen and also talk the words, even though your Rebbe said it because he had a list, but another problem, but you're giving it over Lashon Rav. So the Chava was very medayik to give Lashon Rav, even though his Rebbe quoted a Mishnah, not the way it says in the Mishnah, Stov Lefinim Stov, but he decided he didn't say it over the way his Rebbe said it over. Al-Kapan, with this grace of Maile, nevertheless, we don't have it. He had the Maile of saying it over also in the Baal HaShmuah. Let's finish up places here. If he's taking that type that if the suffix of who he heard it from, he would make it clear. The Gemara there should have said that Philus fake the gravity goddess that the mile of Rechova is even a suffix of which person he heard it from. He also gives over. Where do we see the Gemara speaks about another Tana Ameda that has that mile? Kada Amar b'chulin b'shmaitzin the mugremes the sugide of mugremes. It's one of the treifis in Lakach Nirali, Lakach Chom Rabbi Yehuda, Mishum why this Rabbi Yehuda, Shushahoya Rabbi Muvok. Even though it's Rav Yehuda, but because Rabbi Muvok, he called him Rabbi, even though he was above. Yehuda come V'Gomar Shmaitzer Pumya. It says over there, it's given to Shmaitzer. Kol Yehuda come. What does it mean? So I taste the mention of the Gomar stuff from the stuff. Well, they come. It's Tunis the Eisa Losh Shom Rabbi. Well, Rots Losh Eisi. Here it was Rabbi, so they want to change it. And actually also means not tasted. Put out a few of that, but where do we see that by a Tana it does bring it down? So I should like from the Rabbi Mutisa. Rabbi Yehuda, Hakel Shechtin. Rav Yehuda and Hakel Shechtin dort besteht as nicht nur sagt Mamische Schmeitzer Bediuk, but he also gives over who he heard it from. And it's a suffix he would say it over. Okay. Next mission. A few minutes, yeah. Let's go to the next mission before we start. This is very important. I mean, this mission is important, but it's a sugi that's also but we can do the mission itself. Yeah, we'll start the next mission now. Beis amud alef. This is about miteich. Miteich shehutra l'tzayrech, u'tanam mishlo l'tzayrech. Not the mission Misham say ein metzin esakot le'esakot le'esalulav le'esefer teira l'reshus harabim v'sil matirin. One is not allowed to do all these malachis, and the Mishnah Grada happens to speak about mitzvahs that are being done because it's not loichel nefesh says Bisham. So you're not allowed to carry on Yom Tif if it's not Leichel Nefesh. Food you could carry, Leichel Nefesh. You could carry, but you can't carry a cotton to do Bismillah even for a walk. Sefer Teira, you can't do it. Even mitzvahs you can't do it. We'll see soon that the Bismillah holds even non-mitzvahs you could do. But the Chiddush is to tell you that even if you're doing a mitzvah, the Baal Tzach Leichel Nefesh, you can't do it on Yom Tif. Bismillah, Matir was still to do on Yom Tif. Says the Gemara. Dr. Tony Tana Kameda Yitzchak Baravdimi, the Tana who's reading the beis for Baravdimi said, this is what he said. He said it comes with the beis. It says in the beis, Shoichet Oilas no beyamtiv loike. If someone shechted Oilas no beyamtiv is loike. And we know a shlomim could be shechted on yamtiv. Even a shlomim that's not shalmi simcha. Even though I promised the Eibush I'm bringing a shlomim, and I come to Eile Regel. There are the chiyuvim you have to bring when you come to Eile Regel. The chiyuv of shalmi simcha, or called shlomim, and called simcha. And then you have an oilas nedova, an oil goes to the Eibush and Gansen. So we'll have a mission later about which one could do on Yom Tov or not. But the shlomim b'chlal, the Bible have a chelik. Part will go to the mizbeach, part go to the kain. So first the kain is eating, it's already eichel nefesh, and part goes to yourself. It's also eichel nefesh. There's no pram shechting the shlom, even if the shlom is not shechting to the Yom Tov, because they have an eichel nefesh. You can shech eichel nefesh. What's about an oilah? Now, if I made an adava to bring an oilah before Yom Tov stam and an adava, you can't bring it on Yom Tov because there's no eichel nefesh there. The mizbeach is not called the chilas nefesh; it's the chilas of the Eibush, of the gavei. The Eibush is eating it kaviyachol. So you can't shecht it. What's about the oilers of the chiyuv of Yom Tov itself? That also you can't shecht. We'll have a Mishnah later, but that maybe if it's the last day you could shecht it. That is better. But definitely your nedava, you give up to give the Eibush you can't bring on Yom Tov, on the whole Yom on Yom Tov. So l'chayre. But who said? But according to Beis Hillel, that Beis Hillel says mitoich sisun. That why is he allowed to carry a lulav? Because carrying heitzah is muter l'tzerich eichel nefesh. So therefore, you could also do it not eichel nefesh. So too, we're thinking now we extend that not just to heitzah, but to any melacha that is connected to eichel nefesh. There's going to be a group of melachas that are connected to eichel nefesh. For example, shchita. So he understood that Beis Hillel is going to hold that shchita is also allowed to be done shaloi l'tzeirich eichel nefesh. The same way Eitzah shaloi l'tzeirich is muter because mitoich. So too shchita and all the malachas that are connected to eichel nefesh could be connected. You're allowed to do it. Also shleim not for eichel nefesh. So when he comes, the beis says that you get malchus if you're bringing an el tadav on Yom Tiv. So he said the time coming before Rabbi Dimi. So Omar Lei Rabbi Yitzchak, but I didn't told this time when I was reading the beis. The Omar Loch, if someone's going to tell you money, who is this beis? beis Shammai he. She answers and tells beis Shammai. The Amri beis Shammai hold le Amri. We don't say mitoich shehuter hitzor l'tzeirech. Huter namish l'tzeirech. That being that it's a muter l'tzeirech eichel, it's also muter non. Beis Shammai says we don't say that. Beis Hillel says you do say it. So l'cheirech kum tois the ibis of beis Hillel. Ha'amri didn't they say mitoich shehuter hitzor l'tzeirech? Huter namish l'tzeirech. The same way they say by Heitzah, it's mutish l'tzeirech, hachan nami so too mutech shehuter shchita l'tzeirech, huter namish l'tzeirech. What's the difference? It's all malachas that are connected to eichel nefesh, and we say you can do even shletzech eichel nefesh. So we see from the right that the reason the svaras machlekes between Shabbos Hillel and now Misha according to this is mitoich. He holds you do say mitoich shehuter l'tzeirech, shehuter namish l'tzeirech, and Mishamas you don't say mitoich. How do you know that that's the svaras of machlekes of Risham Beis Hillel? Maybe they're not arguing about miteich b'chlal. You know that they're arguing about miteich. Dilma be'iruv veitzol l'Shabbos ve'iruv veitzol l'Yom Tov. Maybe they're arguing b'chlal of this malacha that we know from the Sefta Shabbos called malacha gerua. Like it's in the first cases in Sefta Shabbos. Heitzah b'chal is a malacha gerua. Because normally who gives us a right to mechalik malachas? But we're going to see soon that malachas heitzah b'chlal is a malacha gerua. Why is it not a very choshev malacha? You're not changing anything. The only thing it's changing is the location of where it is. Therefore, it's called a very small malacha. And we'll see soon from a pasuk also that from Yirmiyah that the Navi is called so you should not carry on Shabbos. So from those it could be a smach that the only problem of carrying is only on Shabbos is for it. So maybe Pasha they're arguing about the whole Isser of Hitzah. Is there an Isser Hitzah on Yom Tif or there's no Isser Hitzah on Yom Tif? Maybe it's Hillel's holes and no Isser Hitzah on Yom Tif. So nothing to do with Mitoich, and therefore you can't apply it to Shchita. Shchita is Asur, and oil will be Asur. So that Bryce would not follow anyone. Even Miss Hill won't agree with that Bryce that Osna was not allowed. The only way you could say that Beis Hillel would allow you to bring Elsadov on Yom Tif is if you hold the Svaras Machlekes of Shabbos Hillel is only because Mitoich. If it's because of Mitoich, you can extend it to Shchita, and you can extend it to doing other inyanim that are allowed to Mitzad. Even Boina, it says, brought on taste Boina. Where do you see about Chila Boina? Because it brought on Masechta Shabbos, making cheese on Shabbos is the Isser of Boina.
Is ice also Boina?
It's mentioned also you shouldn't make ice in Shabbos. Maybe with Boina. So according to this, because we can't say all Amates Malachis are in the category because they could do everything. If you say every malach you could try to find a hechetim, so I could use this for eichel nefesh. Everybody said all Amates Malachis are always allowed. There can be a list of various malachis that are mamish used for eichel nefesh, and only those malachis we say. And to Sat also already on this topic, there's a machlekes of the even according to Rabbi Yehuda, the whole machshirei eichel nefesh is allowed to be done on Yom Tov also. We hold no. Any machshir, so we know. But machshir is done. But everything is machshir eichel nefesh. Because lighting a fire and smoothing a knife and doing everything to it. So every malach you could find is machshir eichel nefesh. That if you hold machshir eichel nefesh allowed to be done on Yom Tov, and you also hold mitoich, what are you going to be then? You'll be left with the maskana that all lamates malachas can be done on Yom Tif. Because the machshir, according to the machshir nefesh could be done all on Yom Tif. And we have a mitoich, say, but even if you're not doing the nefesh, you do it. So therefore we say, even according to the one that says machshir nefesh, but only the machshir, but you don't fit the mitoich on that. The mitoich only goes on the oich nefesh itself. Only, for example, lighting a fire and shechting and bishul, right? And hitzah, things that mamash only connect, not the machshir. That's going to be another rule. Which come taste all the malachas. And let's just finish up this other svara. So the one svara is we learned the reason the machlekes of B'Shabbos is because of mitoich. But l'chayr he's asking maybe the whole svara of machlekes is not mitoich. But maybe still holds it's a problem with hitzah, not with the mitoich. And every time is going to be it's limited only to hitzah. But still holds no hitzah is a problem on Yom Tov, but anything else is going to be a problem. That's what he's asking the B'Shayla. So fragt Maskel Rabbi meinte B'Shabbos Hillel Balkan if you do be'eruv veitzol Shabbos ve'eruv veitzol Yom Tov can be fligi Marsov eruv veitzol Shabbos ve'eruv veitzol Yom Tov Marsov eruv veitzol Shabbos ve'eruv veitzol Yom Tov. Where do we see B'chal Svara that Shabbos is different than Yom Tov when it comes to veitzol? The Ksiv of the pasuk in Yirmiyah lo yisaytziu misha masav imatechem. Don't carry a load from your houses outside. So we see that the Yirmiyah is warning the Klal Yisrael not to be. I want to say on Shabbos it's a be a Shabbos. B'Shabbos and Yom Tov loy. So maybe that's what it is. So if that's their machlekes, liflugu ba'avonim. The whole Rashi taste is over here. We're going to say Pashut. Why does he mention mitzvahs over here? looking for, say, if Bechlal, the whole Hitzah is not a problem. There's no Hitzah on Yom Tov is Hillel holds. So why is it happening on these Dugmois from episodes? Tzedek K'tzas, because you have Malchus, you need Tzedek K'tzas or not. That's what you're going to. You need to have, I carry my keys to shul. I carry Stam Yonim. You have to have some kind of Tzedek Hayoyim, with Tzedek, not Tzedek Echel Nefesh, but Tzedek Hayoyim. Episodes what's a need.
After you bring it to shul, to daven,
Bring it back
home, and just to keep it there.
Right? Oh, episode Tzedek. That's a bit Tzedek. But Rashi holds by it's no Tzedek. What's only most of them hold it. No, that's the episode Tzedek K'tzas. Now, Kabbanim, if you're going to learn it over here, there's a Tzedek K'tzas. So, like Tzedek says, you have to have a Tzedek K'tzas. So that's why we mentioned Tak. According to this, it's good. Why do we mention this case? So why can they say Bechlal? If Rashi is right, that B'Shabbat Hillel means you're allowed to carry Bechlal mitoich. Why do you mention Tzadduga from Aluliv and Tzasifitera? Say Pashid. You could carry it all. Rashi is going to say today the Chiddush B'Shamai. B'Shamai is going to hold. Rashi is going to answer that what? According to first Rashi, will be even though it's a mitzvah. B'Shamai still says Asur. But Hillel is going to hold that everything is mutter according to Rashi. But what do we say Avonim? If you're right that the whole problem here is the Hitzah, the whole issue that Hillel's matter is the Hitzah issue, and that mitzvah the mitoich. Why give these dugmois of a lulav and a child and a sefer Torah? Say Avonim. There's no need whatsoever. There's no parameter Hitzah. It actually says Avonim is muktzeh. So he actually says, according to Rashi, he says muktzeh, and Rashi learns very interesting. Rashi learns, it's unique, that the Isser of muktzeh is mitzad Hitzah. Rashi says the Isser of muktzeh is mitzad Hitzah, and that goes hand in hand. So Rashi basically saying, the mother saying, if there's no problem with Hitzah, then there should be no problem with the muktzeh also, and it should be metalkel Avonim. That's Rashi Pirush. Toys has a different Pirush. Toys says no. He was speaking about not metalkel Avonim. He was speaking about Hitzah Avonim, Merab Liyoch, the vice versa. But
there's an alef, so they can carry the Avonim for the Afghan.
It's called Tzedek Yom Tov. Okay, so let's go. Let's go a little bit weiter. So okay, from here, if you're right that Beis Hillel says it's all because of and that's going to be the maskana. The next piece will be that even Rabbi Yechon also holds that it's inside the let's say the Charam said. We'll finish with Mamshech next time. Unless you want to finish up the next mission, it's a Shmit. But the mission is right here on top. I mean, I don't know, 10 minutes or 5 minutes. Go, let's go. Okay, let's finish the mission and then we can start next time for the next mission. It's a big sugya. It's a very geschmack sugya. But we're going to go in Mamish Blagirse. This will take Shut to take the Ram's Leil.
You're allowed to bring your oila to Shatoila?
If you own the Doven, no. Oh, we can have the Mishnayos. We have Mishnayos here. Mamish from the three Machlekes. We're going to have an hour Masechta. We're going to have a Machlekes Sham. We still how to bring the Karbanis. And no, for sure, Elis and Doven, your own Elis and Doven, no. The Shaila is if it's going to be a chiyuv of the Yom Tov. Elis and Iya. So there, the Shaila is if you can bring it on Yom Tov or not. Okay, let's finish the sugya. So there was two ways apparently of learning the machlekes. The Gemara proved now the way is it's miteich. Now, Gemara is saying Rabbi Yechanan also held that this is the pshat the machlekes sham b'silul. Va'af Rabbi Yechanan savar b'mitoich shohut lehutzal letzerich utram tzerich kligi. Rabbi Yechanan also we see from this memory of Rabbi Yechanan and Rabbi Yechanan's reaction to a specific beis, and that will be the end of the Mishnah. We'll see that Rabbi Yechanan held eichet that in those b'shteit the machlekes sham b'silul. Tony, what's the story? This is what happened. Tony Tana came to Rabbi Yechanan. Tana taught from Rabbi Yechanan. We're holding in the bottom of Yud Beis Amud Beis Amud Alef. 1, 2, 3, 4 lines from the bottom. Yud Beis Amud Alef. The Tana came to Rabbi Yechanan. Hamavashel gid hanoshe bicholov biyomtiv. A person cooks the gid hanoshe, which is considered basar, together with cholov, which is milk. Biyomtiv and yomtiv vi'ochle, and he also ate this. How many times is it chayiv malchus? 2. Oh, he's got a list over here. Like a chomish. Why? Like a mishum mevashel gid. The gid, being you can't eat it because it's today, if it's not kosher, you can't eat it. So you're cooking something. So right away you see over here that cooking shalel tzedech you chayiv malchus. So we're going to see. So Rabbi Yechon is going to say, don't take this out. It's not going to be 5. It's going to be 3. So from Rabbi Yechon's reaction to this beitza and says, take out this cooking because cooking actually you're not going to be malchus. Is Rabbi Yechon holds of the concept of miteich because miteich you're not going to get malchus on that. Let's see the beitza itself how it was read before Rabbi Yechon, and soon we'll see how Rabbi Yechon said his comments of this beitza and he didn't agree with the two times malchus. So, but this beitza read like this: you like mishad gid. So you like shemavashal gid, you're cooking on Yom Tov something you're not allowed to eat. Like mishum oichel gid, that's clear. You ate the Rashi, the Rashi is going to be also. Like mishum mavashal basar b'chol, that even in the weaker chayiv, you can't mavashal basar b'chol. Rashi brings down. Not just you can't eat basar, you can't mavashal. And then the next thing is like mishum oichel basar b'chol. You cooked, you get one mark. The fifth of mishum. Havara. That's only if you take it put on the fire. If you put on the fire, it's possible for a person just to bishul without actually putting on the fire. But if the person actually put on the fire and then he started cooking, there's another piece of the havara. So here we have Hamalei. Rabbi Yechon says he had this lashon very often in Shas. Poik toni libra. Learn this beitza outside the beis medrash. It's a lashon when the Meir wants to tell him it's not an authentic beitza. Learn this beitza outside, not inside. Bra means beitza outside. Poik, go Libra, go learn it outside. Why? Because Havar ubishul eine Mishnah. This is not a Mishnah because you're not Chayim Malchus Havar ubishul. So what do we see from here right away? Why not? Because Rabbi Yechon holds that his Hillel holds. Why are you allowed to carry these things on Yom Tif? Because mitoich shehut shelitzayich hut shleiltzich, and if that's the case, you extend it also to Bishul and Havar because Bishul and Havar are from those malachis that are tzayich and nefesh and mitoich shehut and therefore you can't get Malchus if you do it. Now, it works out my Mishnah. If you're going to say, and Rabbi Yechon adds, if you do want to learn the Mishnah, you should know it's b'shamahi. It's not this Hillel. Why? The Amri le'emrin mitoich. The selem teich shut l'tzedich l'tzedich. So Hachanami, it's the same Beisham that holds by Hitzah. You're not allowed to carry Shlei L'Tzedech. Hachanami Beisham would also hold. Le'emri, you don't see mitoich shut l'tzedich. The same way you're allowed to put on a fire. L'tzedech huteram Shlei L'tzedech. And it's only Mishami. Why could the Beis Hillel? If it would be Beis Hillel, Kiv on the Amri Miteich Shehutu Heitzah, let's say the Chuteram Shalei Tzedek. Being they hold you're allowed to do Heitzah, even Shalei Tzedek, because it's Mutal Tzedek. They would also hold Achram that also Miteich Shehutu Havara Tzedek, Chuteram Shalei Tzedek. Their whole thing is Me'avara. Therefore, the beis is not Beis Hillel. Come on, what do we see from here? Now, Rabbi Yechon learned clearly the pshat and the machlekes. The Shabbos is mitzad this one of mitoich and not mitoich. Not because of what we suggested before. There is no Isur Heitzah b'chlal on Shabbos on Yom Tov, and Rabbi Yechon also learned like Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Avdimi that the machlekes of Shabbos is mitzad. Do we say mitech shehutro l'tzedek udam shezach or not? Okay, we're going to stop here and stream. Okay. Aber I mean, that's